So welcome everyone. We are going to take up week 5 prayer this time, February 7, 1914. So as always, I would request all of you one by one, just share your reflections or contemplations on the same prayer. Yeah, anyone, please start.
Anika, I can do
Yeah, please.
February 7th, 1914. So, this line, conscious of what expresses the most perfectly in action. Like, I just go through, first of all, the basic thing that I could relate to, that somehow we are always being told to follow rules, right? Like, and the impression, like, just talking about myself, when I hear the word rule to me means something which is set in stone, like kind of, which is there, which is totally verified, justified, and all you need to do is like somehow do not think, just follow. It's already well established. And I think that is one of the things why there's a lot of that mentality of just following things blindly somehow in the system, that because things are already in place, why do you need to question? Just follow and just you'll be fine. So this was really interesting here, like the rule thing. I just wanted to first say to, okay, so here, for him who by integrally united with thee is constantly conscious of what expresses thee most perfectly in action. Lot of times, again, because of the old mentality, like old way of thinking that I was talking about, when we see things done in a different way or said in a different way, we raise an eyebrow that how could one person say it like this? It's very offensive or it doesn't feel ethical. But to realize that ethics have limits. There's a point beyond which ethics don't matter. If you're actually helping somebody, kind of, like how in a lot of time mother talks about the divine law, right? So that's above these pet, like, using the word petty for say ethics or morality seems weird. But again, it's like it takes you till a place, and after that there are other things that take you. So that was very interesting. And how it's so clearly said that rules and all are like makeshifts, like they are there to take you again to a point, and then you have to take things as they come and with the openness. So here, to make rules for oneself and to make them as general, that is as supple as possible, is good. We with ourselves also, like how, like say the new year resolution, right? Like this almost like a tendency that okay, every new year's you have to sit. Especially I remember when I was in school and college, and it seemed like the best thing you could do, and it felt very frustrating that oh, this year also I couldn't follow, kind of a thing. But again, till you start questioning that why do I even make, have to make the resolution and then you give it away, till you're doing it thinking that that is the right thing, is a bit heavy. So if one knows this earlier on, it's really beautiful and it will be more freeing and light, I think. So here, yeah, again about this artificial lights, कि whatever they are showing, जो ये मुझे दिखा रहा है, जहाँ where he's it's taking me the rule, it's again, it's obviously not the end, right? It's taking me to a place, and whatever, it's like the lights that we talk about, and we talk about the divine light, and here it's the artificial light. It's taking me to a point where there is light, but it's not the real light which I am seeking. So if one knows that, the stakes go down. It's like no, things are not a matter of do and die kinds, which are quite a lot in our everyday lives. That was interesting. And again, the constant revision. I mean, I feel that if we actually had this this thing in our society, or how, say, the government rule books and stuff, when we talk about it, how if things actually had a constant revision, I just could see it, especially after this prayer, that how beautiful, how much more beautiful the regular general life can be, because it's real time. Like, say, we are all so frustrated about, say, India's law and order system, like the courts and everything, and yet we all know it, and kind of, we nothing is being done, nothing can, it feels like nothing can be done. If we ever talk about, say, and I mean, I'm blessed that I usually don't say politics, Indian politics, or say world politics, we all kind of have this background, in a background that nothing can be done there, it's a totally gone game, and it's totally beyond me. But just because it's so rigid, and just because it's so settled in its rigidity, and yeah, I mean, it feels that there is no place for any revisions or improvement. So that's what I felt when I saw this. And then this one, to help them as best as one can in making the supreme discovery. So as long as, how we are always kind of looking at small pictures, right? If, say, somebody comes and talk to us, and you say that a lot, right? That, say, somebody wants to come and they want to vent out, this happened. At that time we would feel that, we are giving them a shoulder to cry on, and that's so nice. But actually we always have to remember that what is it leading them to, it's just giving them a shoulder to cry on, so they are just continuing with their habit to cry. And we have all seen it from our own experiences, that the crying does not stop till you tell them ki, hey, why are you always crying? I mean, not just this, anyway, like in any way, if they realize that, there is a choice and they can stop crying. So this would be really nice to see that whatever I'm saying or doing, how is that helping around? Like, they say lead by example, and your life should be the way you want, others to be around you. I don't think I said it rightly, but I think you get the gist. That you, so by being the best that I can be the best for others, so that they can also try to be the best they can. I'm sorry for this circle twist and turn. Okay. Yeah, and then of course that is very clear, that I saw clearly that no rule was vast and supple enough. Vast, again, like, not enough, and supple, not flexible enough, because there's no rigidity there at all. There is no limitations. I mean, it seems so counterintuitive of how we take things, right? We are always holding on, latching on, and kind of making checks and boundaries. And here it's like not supple enough to be perfectly adapted to the law, and that the only true solution way was is to always be in communion with you, and adapt it perfectly to all the infinite varieties. Like, if you look at it, it's again kind of, virodhabhasi, that one thing is adapting perfectly to all the infinite variety of circumstances. That's so beautiful in itself. Yeah, I guess that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Til. Yes. Anyone, Jyotsna ji, Chitra ji, would like to share now? Anything that was resonating more than other lines, or striking more than others?
Yeah, I'll go, Monica.
Yes,
Actually,
Chitra ji.
this prayer really reminded me of my early life from my 25 years to 35 years of age. Actually, I used to follow those rituals, chanting of slogas in a correct time, and with special importance to Fridays. And also there were many rituals connected with that. You have to take bath at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the clothes too. Actually, you have to use the same clothes. You have to wash it and keep it separately. Nobody should touch it. Actually, and also the vessels also, you have to use special vessels for those pujas, and if you want to make any prasad. So these are all the rituals. So most of the time would be spent in the rituals only. that chanting part, there won't be any concentration because we will be thinking always about the rituals, how to do it very correctly. Those, I mean, from at least 25 to 35 years of age went like that actually, all the rules and rituals. But after mother entered, and automatically question arose in me actually. So more and more that joyful concentration replaced those rituals. So as mother clearly explained in this prayer, no, only for those who have intermittent contact with thee, that things are necessary. Those rules are necessary. I can't say it is always the contact is there, but anyhow, I am completely now relieved of those rituals actually. So, Mother, this prayer is very much true for me. And also about that artificial lights, also she mentioned, no? So, that inner joy you won't have if there is any artificial lights. Yeah, I experienced that. You won't have any inner joy actually. Because chanting and following those rituals only will be in the mind. There won't be any joy. But if you want that inner joy, no, you have to concentrate upon the, I mean, meaning of those lines, and go inside and concentrate and communicate with the divine. That is very important. So I followed those rituals also. Now I am following these things also. So this prayer really resonated with me a lot actually. And also, I feel so no rule was vast and supple in front of the vast divinity, really, it is beyond any rules. The divine is beyond any rules. So it is, and the communion with the divine also, it becomes if it becomes a parcel, part and parcel of the life, there is no need of any rules, I feel. And also this supreme discovery, the discovery of thee within them, yeah, it is really very beautiful, Mother. I feel very wonderful, and these lines, yeah, this is my take in this prayer, Mother says. Yeah.
Thank you, Chitraji.
Yeah.
Yes. Jyotsna ji, would you like to share?
I
Yeah.
think I think Taru covered most of it. She went line by line, but in the last paragraph where she says, when towards all those who come to us, or in order not to only to refrain from doing them any harm, which often happens if we don't really reach out to go all in all to help to our limited capacities. We all we can do is help them to steer towards the supreme, but it all is again counter dependent on how much we have reached along that path. But the intention has to be to adapt towards that path where there is no rule as in it is a fluid rule where it will just keep on changing and put them in communion with the divine. That was it. Otherwise, she covered it all. It would just be a repeat.
Okay. Thank you, Jyotsna ji. Yes. So let's do this again. For him, February 7, 1914, for him who, by being integrally united with thee, is constantly conscious of what expresses thee most perfectly in action. This also took me to where we are facing a difference between knowing and living. Many a times we have an understanding that this is not I should behave or react in a particular situation, but somehow the force of tendencies is so strong that one is not able to help it, and one reacts in a particular way again. Now, Mother here is talking of for him who, by being integrally united with thee. So, the mind, the body, the vital, the physical, right? So, they are all in a integral union now. They are not performing their own activities, that the mind says something else, the heart says something else, the physical wants something else. That's not the case. So that is why integral yoga comes into picture. That is why it is so essential for all of us as human beings, because mostly we find that we have a samaj, we have an understanding that this is not how should I should be behaving or reacting, maybe I can do better. And yet, owing to owing to each and every part of the being acting in its own manner, they're not being a central king in my system. uh, we are just not able to follow it in life. In life we are just scattered. Mind says something else, it's very rigid, very dogmatic. The heart is desiring for some other thing, and the physical is not wanting to collaborate at all, and the soul seeks something else, the psychic wants to do something else. So as if all of the parts are just very scattered here and there, mostly with us human beings, unless we wake up to ourselves and realize that how long will I live as a scattered being. And that is where the point of integrally united with thee comes, where we wake up to the light of our own understanding that yes, in goodwill, what is really benefit for me and the other. Benefit, not what I think is good, because that would be my mental opinion. What will be beneficial for me and the other person? Just like I think one of you were sharing that if somebody comes and gossips or chats about his own load of life, and you give him a shoulder to cry upon, the person will come again and again and again and again. Is it really benefiting the person? Yes, you are helping the person unburden a bit, but the burden, the root of the burden, you are not helping the person. And on the other hand, if you really completely refuse that I would not be listening to your cries and worries, you have to do something about it. And if you want my help, I'm here. But for your cries and the constant uh, unload of shit, I am not there. It may hurt the person in the beginning, but it is an act out of goodwill. This is goodwill, this is integral unification, out of an understanding that what is good for me and on for the other person. Now this appears maybe something here and there, but I think you already touched, a few of us you have touched upon, is that it is basically operating from goodwill. What is good for me and the other person, what is expanding the other person and me, what is widening the horizons of other person and me, right? Now that will be the foremost. The wants of the vital, the wants of the mental, they come later. I'm not going to listen to that. They may be there, but I'm not going to listen to them. They don't have a much importance here. And then if we live a life with this understanding, each moment, as many moments as possible, then it is not required for the rules to exist. Right? We will come later also on this, that why the rules are required. Rules are required for us who are blinded by our vital demands and mental opinions and physical cravings. We are blinded. So for those persons, the rules are there, that okay, happy hours kya hai? 3 to 5. Why I can't prolong the happy hours? Because I know that you will abuse the happy hours. Right? You don't have enough understanding. You will go into the flow of your tendencies and abuse the happy hours. So that is why I have to put a limit to the opening of the bar. Right? This limit is necessary. Police stations are necessary all around the streets. Courts are necessary. Why? Because we are so blinded by the cravings of vital, mental, and physical, that we do not keep the understanding as the foremost. What is good for each person and myself. Yeah. So this for me, it was more directing towards this understanding and goodwill, acting out of my own samaj, and not following the blindness of vital and mental opinions, vital desires, mental opinions, and not wanting to prove myself or the others wrong. So if I am operating, I am out of a goodwill, then I will not be afraid of doing any act, taking any action, whether the other person rejects me or approves of me. Usually we are so wanting to have an image in front of the other person कि मुझे कुछ समझे ये दूसरा बंदा, that we don't take the right step. No, we follow a wrong step. Why? Because what would that person think about me? What about my relationship? Maybe it breaks. So I am very selfish in that manner, that owing to the fact that I don't want to be all myself by myself, I don't want to be left alone, I'm not taking the stand for truth. I'm buying into falsehood, which is neither good for the other person and not for me. This is what we usually do. Yeah, keeping our children close to us all the time, not letting them explore the world, always interfering in their matters, saying that I am the elder one, all kind of things, emotional blackmails that we do. Now, this can be done only when I am not seeking a sense of completion from the external situations of life. Only then this can be there. I will be able to act out of goodwill when I know that nothing on earth can complete me. I am complete. Now, when I am complete, although I am a work in a progress, but knowing that essentially I am complete, I am enough. Now, what would I like to do in this situation? Seeing the very fact that no external situation can give me or subtract anything from me. So, how would I behave? What would be the words that I would speak? What would be the reaction I would give to a person? And then I will not be uh, afraid of facing any insult or rejection when I am standing hand in hand with truth. I know what is the action that I am taking, and it is so essential. It will expand the other person, it is also expanding me and not making the other person handicap upon me. Then I will not be caring about even getting insulted in the process. That doesn't matter. It does not, the insult does not subtract anything out of me. Yeah. And this truly is a selfless action. This is an egoless action, but it is a stand for the higher self. So you are actually taking a stand for the higher self being one in all. You're also taking a stand for the other person. Yet this is a selfless action with a small s, selfless, egoless action. You're not wanting to complete yourself through this action. Now, an action in goodwill can help others, can benefit others, not before that. And now the rules are not necessary because I will never be abusing a relationship just because I want to consume this relationship for my own fulfillment. Right? I'll be able to stop myself saying that yes, mental opinions may be there, vital desires may be there, the physical cravings may be there, but I know that this is not beneficial. And one needs a lot of courage there. One has to actually really kind of, as if you are tying your own hands. The force of tendencies is so hard and strong that you almost as if you're tying your own hands by your own self. Yeah, so it needs a lot of courage. It connects you with a lot of courage. The visual that it gave me, imagine that it is itching me somewhere, and it's itching very strongly. Now I want to itch, but I know that if I itch again and again, it bleeds. The wound starts to bleed. And when it starts to bleed, it's not doing the body any good or me any good. So, although I am having a sadistic pleasure by itching, but it is not beneficial for me or the body. So, what do I do? Out of an understanding, I stop, I refrain myself to itch. I do not allow myself to itch. Now, this cannot be called as suppression or control. This is coming out of my own understanding that owing to the fact that I have seen how many times I have itched at this place, but it has not really resulted into healing. The wound has gotten even badder. So let me not itch this time. So this would not be control or suppression. This will be samaj and understanding. Yeah. Now it will not be as difficult for me that I'm trying to control something and I'm not able to control. Because when we talk of control, there is always a dishonesty there. Why? Because I feel that by itching, I would be benefiting. It's giving me something. Now I am doing it out of an understanding that itching is not giving me anything. And hence, I must stop to itch. Yeah. So this is what was coming to me. And then it connects me with a deeper strength. When it's itching in the body and I'm not allowing myself to itch, then it's connecting me to a deeper strength, because to bear that itch, I need more strength. I need more and more strength. And I realize that, oh my God, all the strength is available within this being. But I never allowed myself not to scratch. Now, when I am allowing myself not to scratch, I am being connected to a deeper well of strength within me. So this strength was forever there. This divine strength was forever there. Yeah. We usually don't allow ourselves to live on the edge, and that is why we don't connect with that deeper strength. Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead. The principles of life are in some only makeshifts for diminishing as far as possible the ignorance of those who do not know thee yet, and for counteracting somehow or other the movements of blindness and obscurity of those who have only an intermittent contact with thee. So these two things are very commonly found in our ordinary human consciousness, the state that we live in, that either we are completely blinded, and that is why the rules are necessary. If there are happy hours, only 3 to 5, not more than that. Why? Because if I leave you more than that in the bar, you will get drunk. You have no control and no understanding over yourself, right? So this is complete blindness. And then there are some who have intermittent contact. So what will I do in the moments of blindness? Because I am only in intermittent touch with thee, with the light of understanding. What would happen to me and the others when I am blinded? Because it's only intermittent contact with the light. And that is why the rules become necessary. That is why police stations become necessary. That is why it becomes necessary that the doors of girls' hostel close at this time, right? Because we have no control over our blinded tendencies and patterns, right? We don't have any understanding about that, as if those blinded patterns are running themselves. We are not really living a life. They are living a life, as if our boat has been capsized and seized, by a pirate, for example, which is this tendency and patterns. We think that we are living our life, but the tendencies are living our life, and that is why we feel hollow from time to time. Yeah. So this is why rules or principles of life become necessary. Now, in matter of gradations that the layers of ignorance are being shed from my life, I see that no rules apply from me. I can be awake at any moment of time, and I can sleep at any moment of time. Nobody can control, or even I don't control myself, when to work and when to sleep. I can work throughout 24/7, or I can sleep 24/7, depending on what my inner truth is telling me to do. But usually, this inner truth is so inaccessible owing to the clamor of the ego and tendencies that we are needing to have some basic set of rules. Otherwise, we'll create havoc in everybody's life. Yeah. So this is why rules and regulations are necessary, who do not have a direct contact with this light of understanding within ourselves. And that is the reason it is very good to question from time to time our own friends and families, that why are you doing this? What is the purpose it is serving you in this life? Why are you following this blind rule in your life? So it's very good to question our own loved ones and people around us, to poke them almost. If you really love them, poke them, keep poking them in whatever capacity you can, so that the light of understanding, which is always there, kind of gets invoked in them also, and in all of us, who are even talking right now, because there is no end to this invoking of light of understanding. We can always go more and more and more. Yeah. Yes. So rules, when we talk of rules, uh, to make rules for oneself and to make them as general, that is, as supple as possible, is good. But provided one considers them only as artificial lights, which should not be used except when the full natural light of communion with thee falls. Now, look at how our houses are there. In the morning, if the house is properly located or placed, there is no need for the tube light to be there. Why? Because there is so much light coming from outside, the sun. Even when it's evening time, until evening, it's very comfortable. If the house is properly located, You don't need to put on any light. It would be stupid of me to do the curtains in the morning when the sunlight is there and put on my artificial light. It'll be very, very stupid of me. But people do that. We do that, right? Just because I am used to it. This is our excuse. That I am used to this pattern of living. These lights are soothing, for example. So that is how we lose touch with nature. We become so acclimatized to the artificial lights or rules that we say, this is how I am used to live. This is my pattern of life. So pattern becomes more bigger. My life becomes smaller as a slave of the pattern. And that is what we do. So mother is saying that artificial lights are only necessary as a makeshift. When the darkness falls at night and I need to study, there is no light in my house, then I can put on an artificial light. But when the light of morning is available, the sunlight is there, who on earth will crave for the artificial light? That is how foolish we become. We say that I made this light, I bought this light with my money, I made this rule with my money, my energy. Now the rule will rule. And for that, we make a slave of our own life. We bargain our freedom. This is what we do to ourselves. Rule becomes more. Just like I think Taru was sharing, the rules of by government, it's like so stupid that after some time, those rules who were actually there to help human beings become a blunder for human beings. As if I am trying to fix now to that rule that government has made. What stupidity we do to ourselves. So the rules were there so that I can live a better life. Now, who rules? The rules. The rules are ruling. They have become the king. The mechanics have become the king. So the human beings are a slave to those rules which has been set in the past. And now I have to fix myself, twisting and turning here and there, making my ends meet so that I can apply myself to the rule. This is how stupid we can get. Because this is how we live. This is the blindness of our life. Knowing that we have all the light of understanding, the divine is within us, yet the stupidity has no end, the Maya has no end, just like the divine has no end. This is the play, right? So rules were made by us. For example, I pick up a rule of chanting, right? I may pick up a rule of getting up 4 o'clock in the morning and taking a bath. Now, why on the very first place I took up that rule? If I look at that, I took up that rule because somehow at some point of time, it was making my life easier and lighter. But time hote hota kya hai that in course of time, I lose the essence of the rule. That rule become a mechanics, and I'm still not able to let go of the rule. Why? Because I feel as if I will be guilty if I am not following that rule, because I was the one who made that rule, right? So as if I have to abide by the rule. Why? Because I was the one who made the rule. So if it will be very wrong of me if I'm not abiding by the rule. But if I look at it, that the very first reason that I made the rule was my life should be lighter. And this rule has become so much of a burden that the reason is nowhere to be seen. Now the rule itself has become a burden, while the rule was there to shed the burden off. So, you know, I, I think at one point of time I was interacting with someone, who was so much in guilt that I have made these and these rules for myself, but I'm not able to. And I just said to that person, but why do you want to? You have made the rule. Now you see that it's not serving you well. Just drop it. But it does not strike us. It does not strike us because we do not keep us the foremost. We keep me and my peace the last. We keep all the external things and rules and regulations the first. And if I only begin to take this sutra in my life, that me and my sanity come the first, no matter what I have to let go of, I think then only we get connected with this invincible strength within. Ram mile thane kaun hatke. Once you get the connection with this truth, Nobody can stop you. Invincibility, even when you leave the body. Yeah, doesn't matter if you're leaving the body. Yeah, I think yeah, that's what was coming to me. Just unmute and share, whenever you feel like sharing in between.
Yeah, Monica, small thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so exactly what you were saying, that I have also seen that so many times, especially with, say, the elderly. Say, first the kids used to go to school and college, so they were getting at a specific time, finishing their chores by a specific time, so that certain deadlines could be met. But now it has been 20 years that the kids have left the house, and still, you know, they are doing the same things exactly at the same time. There's no explanation. They put alarms to get up at 5 a.m. so that, say the breakfast can be ready at 8 a.m., which would now be consumed at 11 a.m. But that doesn't matter. Like you somehow, how you keep saying that we are kind of scared to make mistakes, right? That what if, somebody decides today to wake up early and eat at 8, which hasn't happened in, I don't know, 15 years. We would not look at that. But the comfort of the patterns, I don't know, the depth in the patterns, how, like, I don't know, like as if there's no life, there's no room, there's no
That's
thinking,
beautiful.
there's no questioning. It's
Yeah.
pretty intriguing that how can, and the worst part is we call ourselves intelligent. We call ourselves like, chalak. Like, not even intelligent. That's not enough for us, right? Like I know how the world works. If I read newspapers, I watch news, and yet you know nothing about yourself, nothing about where the life is going, how is it going, how much you're torturing your own self to meet those deadlines and stuff, which have absolutely zero value. So it's really interesting, the whole dynamics of how we think what we are doing and what exactly are we doing, and yet we have that blind veil towards patterns and monotony, and I don't know. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful, Taru. Thank you for sharing. I think it's so amusing, also. And I think I heard somewhere that first you should, if you are not able to look at yourself, then you can start to look at the life, the world, the people around you, how they live their life, and think, slowly come back to your own self. I think it's really amusing and blinding how we really live our life. So thank you so much for sharing. Yes, Jyotsna ji, please share. Yeah.
I think what I have felt is that as human beings grow in age or age in life, there is an innate fear within them to face any change. They impose rigidity on themselves. They impose rules on themselves, which were, like Taru said, 20 years old, 25 years old, because at that moment in time, it was practically beneficial for the situation. But then after that, they resist change. They don't want a change at all. They want to continue with the same mechanical passage, they just go on and on because they fear change. There's some resistance, there's a fear of change, that what will happen if I don't do it this way.
Beautiful. Yeah, so true. So true. I think, and in
Yeah,
that
that
almost,
question.
yes,
Yeah,
Chitra
that
ji. Yeah.
what will happen if you don't do any pujas? This question actually attacked me from all sides at one time. Actually, I got that attacks, but somehow, yeah, Mother's grace only. Yeah, I could completely come out of it. Actually, yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Jyotsna ji, want to share something?
Nahi.
Acha, acha. Okay. Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think it's beautiful to see this journey of falling into patterns so which are so rigid, so almost dead, and obviously, I this reminds me of Kabir's a story where once, a traveler was coming to that place where he used to live, and he asked, where is the village, where is the village? And he sent him again and again, the traveler, to the Shamshan Ghat. So he said कि यहाँ जिंदा लोग हैं, वहां तो मरे हुए लोग हैं, because we are only a dead pattern living. Actually, if we look at it, in time we become just a dead pattern, emotional patterns, thinking patterns, physical patterns. That is who we become. And it takes a lot of courage, guts, and also a lot of self love. That is this all that I want to do with myself? Is this how I live my whole life, like a dead emotional thinking and physical pattern? And then Kabir says to him that sadho ye murdon ka gaon, and this is who we are, as if we are dead men walking. We don't have the courage to use the light of intelligence which is placed right here within us, 24/7, not away from us, at all. So though I think it's a blessing, first of all, to be able to recognize that yes, we have fallen into pattern. In every phase of our life we do fall into patterns, and then to recognize that there is a pattern, and then to rise above it, as Chitraji was sharing. So this is the duality, how we can enjoy this play of Leela. Only then it can become Leela. Yes, Taru. Yeah, share.
Yeah, another thing, that I've seen is that, say, the young so-called younger people, they also have usually the tendency of promoting those patterns, the sustenance of those patterns, say, of their parents, because somewhere they feel that they are so much dependent on those patterns that if you take that away from them, if you show them, okay, what are you doing? What if they fall into depression? What if, it's like something that's keeping them alive, which I feel is like, I don't know, what a waste of life, right? Like you're just, again, like you were saying, like, that being dead. So as in the life that you are living, is it really worth living? We don't think that. We just feel कि हाँ जब तक, no matter how we are living, but the longer we live, that's best, right? Because I don't know, and especially coming from the younger thing, I think there's a responsibility thing as well. What if then, if they don't do this, that they will depend on me more, right? To be there, to keep them company. So let them just keep getting, I don't know, walking around in circles so that it's easier for me also. Like have
Very
seen that.
true. Very true. I think that would also connect me, what Taru you are sharing, to the idea of, that we neither do we love our own self, neither do we want to expand and widen our own self, and neither do we want to do this for the other person, because we actually lack in love towards our own self and also the other person. Because if I really love the other person, I would actually take the courage and guts to go through that discomfort of sharing this thing with the other person. Yeah.
And that is so odd, Monica, because see, in the name of this very love, there's so much that you actually do in worldly terms, right? I didn't want to do engineering, but my father wanted me to do engineering, so I spent 4 hours 4 years, in an engineering college. I mean, all those things about, those again, those mechanical things about titles and positions. You can spend 10, 15 years in that, because my parents don't say it, but I know they'll be happy. Like we hear it so often, right, with the youth, and obviously from our own lives as well, a lot of times. So again, as long as we don't have to change, I mean, I think what you said was very beautiful, but because I don't really know what love is, and I'm incapable of loving myself, so I am incapable of loving others, but what I'm told is love and responsibility. I too, like that, just follow the dead patterns of how I see that everybody around me is following them.
Beautiful. Yes, yes, completely. you know I think we should take up someday, a session on allowing ourselves to go through discomfort, and allowing others to also, kind of kicking almost others into discomfort. I think that would be an act of self love and love towards others. Yeah, Josna ji. Yeah.
There's one thing that I experimented with in my life. My daughter is now 23, and right from the beginning, we didn't set up a rule, but we realized that if let us bring her up with a principle of we agree to disagree, that she would have certain ideas, we would have certain ideas, but we never lived our dreams through her. And we would say, Okay, we don't agree with this, but if you are convinced about it, give it a shot. Let's see. I mean, we made an attempt to be more open. And somewhere along the way, in the last 15 years, it worked. Our ideas don't match how we bring, where now, like when she's growing up, like we had certain dreams, like even at a recent stage where 6 years back, my husband wanted her to do medicine and got her a seat, an admission in medicine. But I again put the ball in her court and I said, look, what is your wish? What do you pull towards? You say that, don't think that you've got to make your father happy. And she came out with, no, I want to do biotechnology and I want to do skin regeneration and I want to go into research of this type and become an entrepreneur later. And I told her, okay, you go for it, I'll handle your father, but uh, maybe we don't think similarly, but I have to be open to your needs and wants. And it worked. She's today very passionate about it and she's trying to get a PhD in it. But what I'm trying to say is that somewhere along the way in the upbringing path or in our spiritual path, we have to agree to disagree, along with our own self love or love for them or whatever. It came out as a very strong principle during my life.
Yes, beautiful, Jyotsna ji. That's really amazing. Yeah. I think usually क्या होता है कि हमको लगता है if the other person would be disagreeing, that then love is not there. That is where we just kind of make a wall. That, oh, I don't want to make the other person in disagreement with me. Then as if we are as if there is a chair on which our relationship is standing, and the chair is so weak that I don't want to crumble it
Yeah.
further. Yeah.
My own husband,
Mm.
he was very keen on doing orthopedics. But his father didn't want him to do orthopedics and made him do cardiothoracic or go into general surgery. And that has always remained with him throughout his life. And he was playing exactly the same role at a subconscious level of trying to make her do medicine. Somewhere it was just the same thing was mirroring again. And then I said,
Yeah.
no, love is not measured by making XYZ happy. Love is agreement in disagreement. If if you are only if you can rise above that possessiveness or whatever you call it of agreement, that only if you're in agreement I love you, otherwise I don't. So then slowly I think all of us have to rise above it.
Yeah. Very true. Very
Mm.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah.
Monica, this thing that Chitra ji just said, we have also seen it. Now we have discussed it several times. It's really odd. Like your life, was ruined, or I don't know, took a shape which you didn't really find joy in through somebody's decision, or I don't know, like whatever direction. And yet one would again continue to do that to their kids rather than realizing that, oh, it was done to me, I don't want to do it further. So this being more common than restraining oneself and allowing the other to be in itself is
Yeah.
again maybe that love thing again, that I don't know. It's really odd because, again, like we call ourselves logical people, right? And we learn from
Mm.
our mistakes and stuff. And so many times we have seen this pattern, na? कि
या वेरी ट्रू, वेरी ट्रू। आई थिंक वही है कि कभी हम मतलब जो हमारे साथ हो गया चाइल्डहुड में, डिड वी एवर एक्चुअली रिफ्लेक्ट बैक अपॉन इट एंड व्हाई इज द वे आई बिहेव, जो वो माइक्रोस्कोप है वो हमेशा बाहर की तरफ ही लगा रहता है, ट्राइंग टू फिक्स अदर पीपल, but that microscope somehow never turns within, in a being of kind of, putting the light of understanding over my own patterns, own ways of behaving, own ways of reacting, कि ये आ कहाँ से रहा है मेरे में, ये आ कहाँ से रहा है। और अगर हल्का सा भी वो शुरू हो जाता है, मुझे लगता नहीं है कि हम वो उतना ही अत्याचार दूसरे लोगों पे कर पाएंगे। विल नॉट बी एबल टू डू दैट। या
I've even, once during a conversation, once I was discussing this, And it came about that, yeah, my dad was wrong to whatever he made me do, but he didn't have that much knowledge. But now because I am so much, I don't know, more knowledgeable and intelligent, what I am making my kid do is right. And that was also very interesting. How, like how can you?
Yeah. And it's really amazing that when your dad was doing this to you, he also thought that.
But we don't see that, you know?
Yeah, we don't see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, great. So let's go ahead then. So we were here to make rules for oneself and to make them as general, as supple as possible is good, but provided one considers them only as artificial lights which should not be used. Now, I think this really resonated with me very, very strongly, which should not be used. So the artificial lights should not be used. The reason, the logic, all kind of obligations and commands that I have in my head should not be used except when the full natural light of communion with thee fails. Now, the problem with us is that we rarely work towards this fullness of this natural light of communion. This is not the purpose of our lives. Usually, the purpose of our lives is to perpetuate the ego, to perpetuate what I am saying is right. And in there, we lose touch with this communion, with this light of inner understanding. We lose touch with it. That has a lower priority than the vital and mental demands and the physical demands. Mental, vital, physical demands go up higher in the list, and this communion with the light of understanding goes really very low. वो तो देखेंगे बाद में. ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है practical life में, ऐसा थोड़ी ना होता है. All that. So mother also says reason is the helper, reason is the bar. So reason can take you, ethic, morality can take you until a point when you are blinded. But once you have gotten your own vision, trust in your vision. With the doubt, with the confusion in your pocket, trust in your vision. Fail, mistake, make mistakes, fall on your nose, but trust in your vision. This is what I think we need to do, these hit and trials with ourselves, so that we know that the light of understanding is with us. Only by hit and trials we'll get to know that. So the logics will not work when the divine will is working. And the biggest example we have the field of Mahabharata, Kurukshetra. Uh, Krishna is saying, doing cheating. He's telling Bhim where to hit Duryodhan. So logics are not working, ethics is not working, morality is not working. Everything is fair in love and war. So when you are connected deeply with the truth, you know what is true action to be taken or what is the right word to be spoken. You can use your anger, make use even of your anger in order to make the truth work. So even anger then becomes a tool. So then we can easily say that there is no good quality or a bad quality in a person. If I am making use of a bad quality for truth, then that bad quality becomes a good quality. But if I am making use of even the good quality for falsehood, then even the good quality becomes a false quality. It's the evil quality. Imagine that I am very sensitive, I am very vulnerable, and I am allowing other person to abuse me, saying that, oh, I am so sensitive, I am very fragile, I am very delicate. The same sensitivity can be used to connect with other person, empathize with the other persons. But now I am using it for a different reason. I am becoming partner in the crime by allowing other person to be abusive on me, saying that I am very delicate and sensitive. So I am abusing the good quality, right? So then we can see that in the hands of truth, all qualities become good qualities, all avguns become sadguns, while in the hands of falsehood, in the hands of ego, all the qualities become bad qualities, they become avgun. This would be very clear then, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Monica, one thing that's
Yeah,
coming to
yeah.
mind is that, like you gave the example of Kurukshetra, right? But if I look back in my life and whenever, like, say, I have heard the discussion of, say, the mention of Mahabharata 100 times in my life, out of that 80 times would be a criticism, like different things, or probably that, say Krishna was, a womanizer. So if your God can be a womanizer, why is it bad? How we are always wanting to just use things for a frivolous, I don't know, validations. Like you don't see what it's all about. Around
Yeah.
3 weeks back, I was having a conversation with someone, and he said that, Mahabharata was all about fighting for the land. See how even in our epics, it's all about, power, and I just was sitting there with my mouth open that, oh, I didn't, that is also a possibility that, oh, it is it, and yeah, I mean, there was something in it, like an artificial light that, yes, ye bhi theek hai, this is also a point, but what all you are missing, that you're not seeing the sun at all, and you're just, I don't know, seeing that, yeah, because of the curtain, like you say, it's really dark, and it's like, it's just amazing how we can take whatever we are capable of taking, no matter what is in front of us.
Very true, very true. I think that would be one of the reasons, why these masters and mystics had to almost keep their life a bit private, because if they make it completely public, then people would actually almost would begin to follow. Imagine that. I think once with Sri Aurobindo, it happened that he used to have this cigar. He used to smoke a cigar, and he was just smoking a cigar out of it. It was not a necessity for him. It was just, maybe he didn't realize that he should drop it or whatever. It was not a necessity for him. And one day somebody said, I don't know, maybe Chitraji would remember the exact anecdote. One day somebody said about some remarked about the cigar, and after that day he did not pick it up again, because he was not depending on the cigar for anything. So, but when, if another person sees, and he can easily pick this up, that if Sri Aurobindo can smoke a cigar, why can't I? For example. So it's really amazing and amusing to see that in what manners, as you were sharing, how can I take things and what I can make out of things just to fulfill my own selfish agendas and manipulations. It's truly amazing. It's what almost clown we can become, and we feel that we are doing this cleverness to others, but we are fooling our own self in the process. We don't realize it. Yeah. Yes. So let's go ahead then. Besides, a constant revision of these rules is imperative. I think Taru already touched upon this, that this constant revision, that okay, is this rule serving me well? Do I need this? Is this making me lighter, or is this burdensome for me? This has to be again and again checked. And individual lives are easier to check. At a government level, it's very hard to make shift the rules again and again, because at a collective level the consciousness is still very blind, right? But at an individual level, we need to take care of our own constant revision of rules. Whether I need to wake up at this point of time, or whether I need to sleep at this point of time, or whether I now still want to do the walkings that I used to do earlier, because they made me really joyous and happy. Now they are more of a burden. So this constant revision has to go on, for they can be only the expression of a present knowledge, and must necessarily gain by all growth and improvement of knowledge. So we always in our life, we go from one knowledge to a greater knowledge, one light to a greater light, and to a greater light, and to greater light. So that rule which was suffocate was kind of, it was helping me at one phase of life when I was ignorant more. Now that very rule has become a mundane thing. I don't want to follow that anymore. So one must be really courageous enough to throw away all the rules, and do whatever is necessary to make my life a bit more lighter and joyous, to live a life which is full of joy, rather than of burdens of rules and regulations. Each day counts, each day, each moment matters. Yeah. And this can be our signal, that is following this rule making me widen, making me expansive, expanding my horizons, or is following this rule limiting me, suffocating me, burdening me. This can be our signal. If there is still a discomfort following a rule, but I know that it actually helps me to grow and progress, although I have to go through a discomfort, then one must follow that rule. But if that rule is not serving me anything, just leading to more and more suffocation, then I am not bound to, be obligated to it. So we must be feeling free to throw away all those unnecessary patterns or ties or relationships, because we ourselves are dynamic beings. We are fluid beings. Each cell of the body is undergoing a change each moment. So this body which appears to be concrete is actually not concrete. It's very fluid. So many things are happening each moment. Yeah. Yes. So that is why when meditating upon the attitude one should have towards all those who come to us, in or not to refrain, in order not to refrain from doing them any harm, but above all to strive to do them the utmost possible good. So this would connect with the goodwill, that whoever comes to me, whether it's my parent, my sibling, my spouse, my children, I interact in a way which is beneficial for the person and for myself. Is that making that person dependent and handicap on me? Is that making the me massage the other person's ego? So I should refrain from those actions, right? Although it will hurt in the beginning, I should take only those actions which are expanding and widening my own horizons and the other person's horizons. So this would be the act of goodwill. And mother has said a lot about goodwill, that goodwill is a basic, needed on spiritual growth. And many people are not so called spiritual, but they have a sense of goodwill. And they are mostly those people who are not really falling ill again and again, ill again and again. So mother, I think I read somewhere that goodwill has a lot to do with also a kind of health, maintenance of health also. Yeah, that is to help them as best one can in making the supreme discovery, the discovery of thee within him. So if I make any person, any external situation dependent on myself, or I myself am dependent on any other person or situation, this is not in goodwill. Each person who is connected with the divine essence within is capable of living a very good life all by himself without any handicap. The person will still be relating in relationships, but he would not be suffocated or feeling miserable when the relationship is gone. And that is the beauty of this utmost, this supreme discovery. Finding our own truth within our being and living from that, manifesting in our life, through that. And then mother says, I saw clearly that no rule was vast and supple enough to be perfectly adapted to thy law. So it cannot be put into any definition that this is a rule book of the divine. I think Sri Aurobindo was asked by someone that can you give a rule book of the divine? He said, he almost laughed at it. He had to laugh at it. Can you trap the divine into rules? Because the rule that is applicable in one particular instance would actually not completely be applicable for the other particular instance. So one day I am being highly unethical owing to the fact that truth has to be followed. On the other day, I am absolutely moral and ethical. Why? Because the truth demands that. So how can I put a border to the divine? Right? The only solution, true solution, was to be always in communion with thee. And this task itself is so challenging that we will never be able to reach completely. Mother says, always be in communion with thee, because there will be always gaps in between. This is our journey as a soul. This is our journey as a human being. To always grow in communion with our truth. To always more and more grow in communion with the inner divine. And this path enough is so beautiful that who needs the divine then? The path itself is divine. I'm not hankering for something after I end the path. Yeah. so that it could be adapted perfectly to all infinite variety of circumstances. So once I have this inner sense of knowing and deep inner being coming into forefront and living the life can only be an adventure, and that is enough. I'm not seeking for anything else in life. That adventure itself is enough. It's a continuous unfolding of life, continuing adventures, unknown, uncharted territories. You know, so this is what we open ourselves to if we decide to walk on this path. As Mother says that it is only to be done in collaboration that you can shorten the path. Otherwise, all the twists and turns and blows and slaps and sufferings and pains keep on coming. And it will take longer, to get on the path. Yeah. So anything, please share any comments, any reflections. Okay, so in absence of anything else, uh, thank you for joining. And I think after that, I would like to ask Taru to share the prayer that she selected and share her reflection upon that. Yeah, Taru, are you there? I think it was September 14.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
So, first of all, I just want to share something. When I had seen, like, my name for the prayer selection, and I was a bit occupied with other things, I was like, oh my God, because I want to choose a really nice prayer. So, how much time would take me? So, I opened the book, kind of, and the first prayer I see is this, and I felt it was just perfect. So, it was very amazing for me to see that, how I think and how things happen is like there's such a difference in two, and how much I lack in faith at times. Okay. So, September 14, 1914. Should I read the full prayer first or just start right away?
नहीं, आप prayer एक बार पढ़ के फिर it will be nice if you start.
Thank you. September 14, 1914. There is no longer an I, no longer an individuality, no longer any personal limits. There is only the immense universe, our sublime Mother, burning with an ardent fire of purification in honor of Thee, O Lord, Divine Master, Sovereign Will, so that this will may meet with no further obstacle in the way of its realization. No farther obstacle, sorry. A mighty canticle of fervent love and exultation arises to Thee, O Lord. All the earth in an inexpressible ecstasy unites with Thee. Let Thy potent breath feed the brazier, that it may become even vaster and more formidable, that all darkness and blind resistance may be absorbed, set ablaze, transfigured into light in the marvelous purifying flame. Oh, the peace giving splendor of Thy purification. Yeah. So, I mean, the first line, there is no longer an I. I mean, I can see that there is so much of me that I still associate with. you hear things that everything is one, and you are in everything and everything is in you, but there's so much of me in me. So there's this line that there is no longer an I was a perfect, I think, I don't know, a prayer and an aspiration for me, so it struck me. No longer an individuality. Again, it's very funny that how we first have to become and then we have to unbecome. Like so much of, say, my life has been towards making myself as an accomplished individual. And now the fact that there would be no individuality, like the possibility of that, is beautiful. And no longer any personal limits. Now this business of limits is actually really painful, because a lot of times, most of the times actually, it's like you are drawing your own limits around you, and you are then saying that, oh my god, I live in a very limited world. So again, the mirror to, when you see this, it's very expansive, and yet it takes a lot of time and courage, I think, and persistence to, I don't know why. Maybe there is an option that the limits can go in one go as soon as you see it, but in my case, I've seen it's like every time the circle is expanding. It's not that it's born kind of a thing. So again, no longer any personal limits. There is only the immense universe, our sublime mother, burning with an ardent fire of purification in honor of thee. Again, this, how it started with I, and even further down, it's about, how the earth would unite. So I'd even like the how like the presence of both of these, but here, burning with ardent fire of purification in honor of thee. I don't see anything to I don't say here, like it's very direct. So that this will may meet with no further obstacle in the way of its realization. That, how I myself stand in my way. So again, when I say that I hope that this will may meet with no further obstacle, also comes back full circle. So when there will be no I, when there will be no longer an individuality, when there will be no longer any personal limit, then there will be nothing in me standing in front of me to obstruct my path. So I guess that was for the first paragraph. And it's again very small sharing that when I read this, there is no longer an I, and I read it again. The first instant, the first feeling was of slight fear that, no longer an I at all. And then came the beauty and the expansion. So I just wanted to share that as well. Yeah. So a mighty canticle of fervent love and exhalation arises to thee, O Lord. Again, how the choice of words that mother uses, like, the intensity of them is very, I don't know, it moves something inside you, right? Like, doesn't, it's like not a regular thing that you're reading, of course. So, a mighty canticle of fervent love. And, again, it's also a bit sad that how casually we use love. So, a master has to use so many describing words in front of love, because we have kind of really scattered the definition of love. So that's also funny. So, a mighty canticle of fervent love arises to thee, O Lord. All the earth in an inexpressible ecstasy unites with thee. Again, if this word, inexpressible ecstasy, usually the way we are, and mother says that also a lot, that, we cannot contain anything. Like if there's some suffering, we just cry and cry and cry and spill it out. When we are feeling too much joy, we talk about it, we share, like it's as if the body as a vessel is incapable of keeping the joy inside. And you know how, Monica, you a lot of times share that couplet also, na, that kuch mone, as in I don't remember the exact word, but you don't have to share everything. You can keep some secrets inside. You know, that beauty of that secrecy. What is it that you say?
Yes, you're right, Taru. Kichu din mone mone. Yeah, that Bengali song,
Yeah,
uh,
that.
where it says that for some time you keep your love for the divine very secret. Do not tell people about it. Yeah.
So technically, I mean, again, going, it's funny to use the word technically when kind of talking about mother's prayer, but this, I guess, true ecstasy would be inexpressible, right? Because I don't know how can truths be, again, obviously be expressed, so I like the combination of the words. And let thy potent breath feed the brazier, that it may become ever vaster and more formidable, that all darkness and blind resistance may be absorbed, set ablaze, transfigured into light in the marvelous purifying flame. So again, you know how we see, I don't know, usually burning as something bad. But here again, when we talk about, you know, the fire of aspiration or these fires, there's so much purification in it. And that's why I don't know, like, you know, whenever you really look at fire, when the fire is burning, especially say if it's a bonfire or even a simple diya, the beauty in it is so moving. I mean, it's as if there's something inside you that's, I don't know, the fire is calling on to, you know, it's like it's just too beautiful. And I think that's part of it because there is this, I don't know, potential of purity. I mean, of course, it is pure and anything that goes in it is pure because there's so much again that we have added on to, so that needs to be burned. And again in this paragraph I again felt that so much of me needs to be burned, you know, the darkness, the blindness that I carry around, that I don't even know about, that needs to come to light and then go into light. So, oh, the peace giving splendor of thy glorification. Like, what could be more peaceful? Like, again, you know, you see a fire burning, it gives you so much peace. Because maybe, I guess, I don't know, the aura or the energy around the fire is like that. And yeah, just the visual of fire burning, of course, you know, the visual of Sita also came to me because it's so, I don't know, related to this, and we've heard that so many times. Yeah, I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else would like to share or reflect or comment on what Taru has reflected upon? Chitra ji and Jyotsna ji.
Yeah, when I read this prayer, no, after Taru sent, I saw this actually. I felt that like a fire is burning upward, which is both aspiring and purifying, as Mother mentioned, no, splendor of thy purification. So that feeling came to me, and also Sri Aurobindo mentioned about this prayer, about this prayers and meditations generally. Someone, I think it is in the book. I don't know whether you are all having that book. Actually, I will read that. Those lines came to me actually when I read this prayer. Someone is yeah, Sri Aurobindo is said I have said that the divine does the sadhana first for the world and then gives what is brought down to others. There can be no sadhana without realization and experiences. The prayers are a record of mother's experiences. And also, for one of the sadhak's question, Shibda is answering, the prayers are mostly written in an identification with the earth consciousness. It is the mother in the lower nature addressing the mother in the higher nature. The mother herself carrying on the sadhana of the earth consciousness for the transformation, praying to herself above from whom the forces of transformation come. So this thing came to me actually when I read this prayer, because mother is addressing as if she is addressing the divine mother, no, actually. So I really resonate with this Sri Aurobindo's saying. Actually,
Beautiful.
this
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Chitraji. Yeah, goes very well with the prayer.
yeah, that's why yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's like I have to burn my own self to reach to my own higher self. So just, lower nature and the higher, as you said, the mother in the lower nature is aspiring towards the mother in the higher nature. So it's like this connection has to be built, because the tendencies and patterns in which we live, we consider that as myself. So I have to burn all that I call myself to reach the true myself. So that's really very beautiful how you connected that with the prayer. Yeah. So thank you Taru for sharing, and thank you Chitra ji for connecting the dots. Anything else from you, Jyotsna ji, at this?
No, nothing, nothing.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, so then call it a day. Thank you for joining and sharing and reflecting. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Monica.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Monica.
Thank
Krishna. Yeah, Karun. Yeah.